Hi, I'm Antonio Sala, and in this video we are starting with the details on what we called in a motivation video previous to this one, the big picture in industrial control of complex processes. In that previous video, we introduced these 5 key steps in designing and operating an industrial plant with efficiency, even if other people may have a very different perspective on what is important for control. I mean, manufacturing, aerospace, or PhD thesis will be very different in opinion about what are the key issues compared to this. So this is industrial process control of a plant with many elements. So in this scheme of designing the process having control in mind, deciding how to divide tasks into subsystems and the information flow between them, controller tuning, implementation detail, and data analysis, well, in this video, we will start with the first of the items, control-oriented process design. So, what are the key aspects on the first of these items? Well, engineering experts in other disciplines will think first in the mechanical engineering, the chemical reaction, the power supplies, and as their control background is usually limited, they will think that control is magic, that everything will be sorted out afterwards, and so control will be an afterthought, let's say. But it's important, if you are a control engineer, or if you are not a control engineer, but you are watching this video just to learn what we do, then it's important to think in control in the design phase of your complex process. But well, at this stage, control and optimization are sort of related ideas. Why? Well, because the first idea is that the variable operation cost is basically determined by the operating point in which I am placing my process. In the sense that the energy cost of heating my office in winter will depend on the temperature set point. Basically, that will be it, 99% of the cost. It will not depend on whether that temperature set point is reached in 20 minutes or 15 minutes. You know, it's kind of 5 minutes of energy consumption compared to the 8 hours of office day the heating is on is nothing. So 99% of the variable cost is in the operating point optimization. What's the role of control in this cost structure? Well, control minimizes variance, and variance is related to the minimum quality I can guarantee for my process. Let's say, if I am selling a product with guaranteed 70% purity, it will be cheaper for me to produce an average of 71% plus minus 1% confidence interval, let's say, than producing an average 75% purity plus minus 5%. So the variance reduction due to control can help in placing my mean operating point close to my technological limit or quality limit. But we must keep in our mind that 99% of the variable runtime cost is the mean, the operating point. Then control hits in what we may call the fixed cost, in the sense that, well, why do I need a given heating power in my office? Well, I need to counteract disturbances, outside temperatures, that may be abnormally high, that would be good in winter, or abnormally low. So I need to add some extra power to handle extreme disturbance cases, keeping the operating point. And I also need some extra power to reach my set point quickly. I mean, at the start of the office day, heating my office to 22 centigrades in 5 minutes will require a higher power than heating it in 50 minutes. So these disturbance rejection and settling time considerations may be needed to be thought of when assessing the extra power needed apart from the operating point, let's say, average calculations. Then that extra power has some cost in the installation, let's say, in the equipment. A 12 kilowatt heat pump will be more expensive than a 6 kilowatt heat pump. So operating point, the mean, is related to the variable cost, and the extra power settling time disturbance amplitude is related to the fixed cost. And we have also the variability related variance issues regarding how close the mean must be to my limits. So those are the control related aspects that must be thought of when thinking on which will be the power and the operating point my plant will be designed for. And other control related thoughts are in the line of, my process will be easy to control if my manipulated variables, my actuators, can act on my controlled variables with fast and high gain characteristics. So I may have to choose different actuation technologies, different pump power, different pump placement, or whatever, and select controlled variables between the lots of flows, pressures, temperatures, concentrations that are moved by my manipulated variables in a fast, low order, high gain transfer function, let's say. So again, taking these considerations in the design phase of my process may help me designing plants that are easy to control instead of thinking in control as an afterthought. The above considerations on power and gain and bandwidth of my manipulated variable to controlled variable dynamics in a multivariate case. Part of this analysis is carried out with the singular value decomposition of the transfer function matrix or the transfer function gain, sigma plots, principal maneuvers, and I must check numerical conditioning. So, if you know what is that about, then okay, just it's one thing to assess in a multivariable plant. If you don't know, well, this is not the place to detail on it. Just note down the idea, SVD principal maneuvers and sigma plots, and look in my video collection or elsewhere on what all that is about. So these are the basic ideas on control-oriented process design. And well, we have spoken about manipulated variables and controlled variables, but we have not discussed sensor selection, measured variables. But that is somehow an easier discussion. The key phrase is get as many good sensors as you can, period. I mean, control performance heavily depends on your sensor technology. Which is the difference between the software that drives an autonomous car versus the software that you program in a little wheeled robot in one of our laboratory sessions. Well, moving that robot forward, backwards, turning left, right, it's a little bit of trigonometry and 5 lines of code. The difference is the sensing. The autonomous car needs to know where pedestrians are, where obstacles are, the velocity of the motion of the pedestrians, position and velocity and acceleration of other cars in the road. So, once you know that, then steering the car left or right is trivial. So the onus is on the sensors. Then in many complex processes, that's also the case. Controlling the purity of a given drug in a pill will be as good as the sensor for measuring it will allow me. So, apart from specific technology details I am not expert of, the basic idea is that if something important, or which may be important, is cheap, go buy it, period. A sensor never hurts. Buying a sensor is never a bad idea. Of course, you must measure something important to you, in the sense that I don't think that measuring the numbers of birds in Reykjavik is something of interest when I am controlling the level of my sulfuric acid tank. So, a bit of common sense in understanding my recommendations is needed, of course, but if you are not silly, then you will understand that there are a lot of sensors in any complex industrial process, and you will measure lots of flows, temperatures, pressures, rotation speeds, concentrations, whatever. If there is a cheap sensor you didn't buy, just go buy it. We'll see how we use it in later control structure, selection, discussion, cascade, whatever, but just go buy it. Because the more sensors you have, the simpler your control, your decision strategy will be. In the sense that from an abstract point of view, it will always be better measuring the actual thing than simulating a model to estimate that thing, because models are not always so accurate. Assuming that your signal to noise ratio on your sensor is good, if your sensor gives rubbish measurements, then maybe your model is better. But usually a pressure sensor will provide a better pressure estimate than the simulation on what the pressure will be from some temperature, density, viscosity, whatever equations. So measuring with a good sensor is better than simulating with a not so good model, and in fact, the mathematical abstraction of all that is what you will have studied in some more mathematically oriented courses, the state feedback or the full information control, in the sense that if you measure everything important, which for a mathematician, let's say it's the set of the state variables in your process, if you measure everything important, then proportional control does miracles. U equal minus kx is something that it will be familiar to you, possibly. Of course, you need, some theory on controllability, whatever, pole placement, etc. But in the grand scheme of things, if you measure everything important, proportional control is enough. And if you measure a lot of important things, even if not every one of them, then simple control structures, say proportional derivative or PID or cascade or whatever, will operate in a very good way in your process. So, as a summary, get as many good sensors as you can of your key process variables. So this is the summary of our discussion. Control-oriented process design is very important, because if there is a design flaw, possibly no control strategy will solve my problems. We'll enumerate these flaws in a minute. But if there is one of those flaws, then maybe nothing will work. And if your process is well designed, then simple, easy to understand PID, cascade, and stuff like that strategies will work very well. So that's it. The design flaws are an ill-conditioned plant in multivariable control setups. A lack of actuator power, so that you cannot compensate a high disturbance that appears with more frequency than you thought. Maybe you have few or noisy sensors. Maybe your disturbance effect is fast and with high amplitude, and your manipulated variable, your actuator, cannot compensate it because, maybe you have some complex, slow, delayed dynamics from your manipulated variable actuators to your controlled variables. Maybe your system has issues with repeatability in the sense that one day your experiment ends up having 56 centigrades, other day it has 82 centigrades, and everything was set exactly the same. So maybe you have heavy nonlinearities, frictions, hysteresis, etc. Maybe the technology you chose for your sensors or actuators or whatever has an excessive fault rate, so you end up having one maintenance stop every 5 hours, so you have a lot of lost production. Then if you have one of those flaws, multivariable, matrix, H infinity theorems, whatever control will not be of any help. And on the other side of the things, let's say, if you have very good sensors, fast actuators, high power, a linear, repeatable, reliable technology, then a handful of PIDs will work extremely well. So, as a conclusion of this discussion, you must not think on instrumentation and control as an afterthought. And even in the drawing board, you must consult a control engineer on all these issues to avoid designing processes which are difficult to control. It will be better to think in advance on those possible problems. So this is it. We finished the video here, in which we have discussed this first control-oriented process design, and then we'll delve into the next items in this big picture grand scheme of things in distributed industrial process control in next videos. For the moment being, we end here. Thanks for watching.